Hi chess fans, in this video we will look at a few ideas in the Grünfeld. The Grünfeld after d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5. And we will basically look at this position and just look at the moves in this position and what are like some basic ideas behind those moves. The most main line, of course, is c takes d. And White simply says, okay, I'm exchanging a c pawn against a center pawn, and center pawns are better, so I'm exchanging a less good pawn for a good pawn. And black cannot take with the queen because the pawn is still protected by the knight. So if black doesn't want to lose a pawn, he takes with the knight, and this allows white to grab the center, attacking the knight. We got a nice center pawns here, and if black exchanges the knight here, the continuation of the game will be about white having this nice pawn center and black challenging it, mostly with c5 and bishop g7. So a lot of the game evolves around putting pressure on this pawn and generally this diagonal here. So for example, black can play bishop g7, putting the bishop on this diagonal and preparing to castle the king to safety. White could continue bishop c4, developing the bishop and trying to put some pressure himself. An alternative is knight f3, protecting this pawn. And this is an absolute main line. The game can continue from here. For example, like this. And black has now won a pawn, but white was able to maintain his center. And after bishop c4, white develops an initiative fast if black does not play against the center immediately. And because the bishop has come out, the knight is now able to go to e2, protecting the pawn, so that if black ever plays the bishop to g5, white can respond with f3. So black puts more pressure on the pawn on d4. White defends, bishop e3, castle, castle, bishop g4, white now has f3, bishop d7, and the game continues. This might look quite strong for white, but the game is actually still on because black gets good play with his pieces, his king is safe, and he has a lot of levers to attack the white center. Okay, so this is the main line, but there are also other ideas. For example, knight f3, the so-called Russian system. White simply ignores this opportunity to take the pawn and just leaves everything as it is. And if black continues with bishop g7, white can play queen to b3, putting pressure now himself on this pawn. So black takes, and the queen takes on c4. And after castle e4, white has all his pieces out and again controls the center. And a good system for black to play here is to sort of try to exploit the position of the queen on c4 and get some piece play. And the way to do that could be with a6, attempting to play b5, making this queen move again and developing the bishop to b7. If white continues and also tries to bring his king to safety with castling with bishop e2, black can play b5, queen b3, c5. Sacrificing a pawn temporarily. This pawn is now attacked, and if white advances, then black gets a lot of space and squares for his pieces. For example, Black could immediately take advantage of the fact that this knight doesn't have so many squares as well. There's tactical opportunities. So it's better for White to take here, and Black simply ignores that he's a pawn down and keeps on developing and getting piece play. If White, for example, this pawn is attacked here, if White advances his pawn, Black can play knight f to d7 and will win back one of these pawns. Okay, so that's a little bit the idea behind knight f3. It's also possible to play queen b3 immediately. The accelerated Russian system if you want. And if Black takes and you retake with the queen, the positions that arise are similar. But White has the option here not to play the knight, but for example to play the bishop to e2 and the other bishop to f4, so that after b5 notice that this bishop is now here and the knight is still here. This gives White the option to play queen takes c7 here. So that's a little bit the idea of playing queen b3 immediately, because after takes, White is now pawn up and has the center, but again Black has compensation by active piece play. Because the knight has not moved yet, White has the option to play f3 here, but Black can attack the pawns, and here if White advances, Black gets good play with his pieces. If White would, for example, protect this pawn with rook d1, Black could pile pressure onto this pawn, so in the end the pawn has to advance, or it would get lost. Okay, so we looked at takes, we looked at knight f3, we looked at queen b3 right away. So you can already see there's a lot of interesting ideas in this position. Another idea is to go for a sort of safe setup with bishop f4. And the idea is that if Black continues, so again bishop f4 is also ignoring this opportunity of taking the pawn and basically saying, no thank you Black, I don't want to play the game that you want to play where I have the center and you can play against that center. And the idea is that after bishop g7, White can simply play e3, and because the bishop is on this diagonal, White is happy to have this bishop here outside of the pawn chain, because there's no checks here on the king threatening from a bishop or queen that might come out here. And so the idea is simply to have a very solid setup. The bishop is out, not blocked by the pawns. I still have the bishop here who now protects this pawn, and the game continues. So in this position here, Black can play c5 and play against the center, and White can play d takes, queen a5, rook c1, d takes, bishop takes, castle, knight f3, queen takes, knight b3, knight c6, and castle. So this is a little bit White's idea, simply to keep it safe. The pieces are out and now the game continues. Instead of, so after queen a5, rook c1, Black also has sharper options, for example knight to e4, putting more pressure onto this knight. And so if White wants to play safe, Black can use this very sharp line. Best is for White to take, and after knight takes, queen d2, queen takes a2, giving back a pawn, and then steer the game into safer waters, for example like this. After bishop f4, bishop g7, e3, black can also play castle, which is also called the Grünfeld gambit, because black is giving up a pawn, either this one or this one. And if white accepts this gambit with c takes d, knight takes, queen takes, and then bishop takes, white has to be careful here, because after knight to a6, white has to play already a little bit careful. So maybe it would sound reasonable to retreat this bishop again. I've won a pawn, and now I want to retreat the bishop because I don't want to give the bishop up for the knight. But after, for example, bishop f4, black has the resource g5, which can get a bit dangerous with the king here. And after bishop g3, black also has the resource e5. So the white king is not yet in safety, and black gets to open up the center. That's very dangerous. So that's why the Grünfeld gambit actually requires white to take this knight and develop quickly. But this allows black to take on g2. So the game here can continue with queen f3, queen takes, knight takes, and b takes a6. And in this endgame, black has the slight weakness here, but black also has the bishop pair, and it's maybe an equal ending, but at least the advantage of white's center is not so strong anymore in this ending. So that is the Grünfeld gambit in the bishop f4 line. But generally bishop a4, the idea is to get a little bit of a safer game. And then there's also the idea of bishop g5, the Taimanov variation. The idea is that if black now simply continues with bishop g7, white can exchange away this knight, and after takes, win a pawn. So that's the idea in the Taimanov variation. That's why the absolute main line is to play knight to e4 here, in which the bishop simply retreats and asks the question to the knight, okay, so what are you doing here? If you now go back, we get into the same line. Of course, this would be very good for white. So what are you doing here? And the most typical answer for black to this would be simply, okay, I take the knight here, and then take the pawn here. So black is now a pawn up, and this is the absolute main line in the Taimanov variation. White can play e3 here, attacking the pawn and having a very solid structure with the bishop outside, not blocked by the pawns, and the king also very, very safe because of this pawn here. And now if black was to allow white to recapture this pawn, for example with bishop g7, white would be much better here. So black has to protect the pawn, and the point is that black cannot do this so well with b5, because after a4, c6, takes, white has the strong queen f6 hitting the rook, and obviously a6 is not a good idea either because the rook is hanging. So black has to play different moves to protect this pawn. One is queen to d5, in which case white can simply develop further, bishop g7, and in this position here, white does not play queen a4 check, a double attack on the pawn, because black has b5, but simply white plays waiting moves. If black now plays knight to c6, that's very passive, so white would be better. if the bishop moves, the bishop does not really have such a good square to go to, or white can simply castle. At some point, black wants to play c5. And in most of the cases, after knight f3, bishop g7, bishop e2, black plays c5 here, which then allows the line to queen a4, and now b5 is not possible anymore because the pawn blocks the way. And here, for example, the line can continue like this. Okay, so of course all of these variations have other points to it, but basically in this position here, the goal of this video was simply to give an overview about the ideas in this position, and we know now there's the exchange variation with the idea of taking here and then establishing a nice center here. Then there is the Russian variation, simply ignoring and then putting pressure with queen b3, where then, for example, one system is to chase the queen away with this plan here. There's also the idea of the queen b3 immediately, where we saw that it's possible to get counterplay with the bishop and to have the option of f3. And there is bishop f4, bishop f4, which where white plans a sort of safe setup. I'm just bringing out the pieces and continuing the game. But black has some sharp options, as we have seen. And then we also looked at the Taimanov variation with the idea of playing against this pawn by threatening to exchange this bishop, and then otherwise simply have a very safe structure with the bishop out and the nice pawns and pressure against this pawn. Okay, I hope you learned a lot in this video. Thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.